Most beginners think HTML and CSS are about making things show on a page. Welcome to the ACE Academy. Let's build this properly. The belief that most beginners have that HTML and CSS are about making things show on a web page. It sounds harmless, but it's actually the reason many developers struggle with layouts, break their sites when adding new features, create inaccessible websites without realizing it, and hit a wall when projects start getting bigger. If you've ever said, "Why is my layout breaking? Why does this work only when I tweak random CSS? Why does everything fall apart on mobile?" then this lesson is for you. Today we are going to reset how you think about HTML and CSS, the same way real production websites do it. Not tricks, not hacks, just foundations. Let's clear this up once and for all. Okay, so when you sign up to the ACE Academy, you can use the in-browser code editor if you have not yet downloaded your VS Code. But if you have VS Code, you can use it. If you're still a beginner and you still want to test without using any dedicated code editor yet, then you can use this. Let's proceed. So HTML is not about appearance. HTML is about meaning and structure. HTML answers questions like, what is a heading? What is a navigation? What is an article? I'm very sure some of you haven't heard about article tags because you always use divs. Everyone is obsessed with divs. I don't know why. What is a button? And what is a form? So HTML answers questions like this. HTML answers questions like this. What is a heading? What is a navigation? What is an article? What is a button? And what is a form? HTML describes what something is. What something is. Not how it looks. A heading is still a heading, even if it's small, it's blue, it's hidden, it's ugly. No matter what it is on a web page, a heading is still a heading. Look at this. If we go to the HTML tab and we see a heading, this is a heading, H1. Hello from the ACE Academy. This is a heading here. So no matter how it looks, regardless of this CSS here, no matter how it looks, a heading is a heading. Its meaning does not change. When we speak of CSS, it's not about making things look nice. I've heard CSS makes your web page look nice. Here we have color gold and text align center. And the color here is gold, the text is aligned at the center. But that does not mean CSS makes things look good. That's not entirely wrong, but CSS is about presentation, layout, spacing, positioning, and visual hierarchy. So in the case of CSS answers questions like, where does it sit? So look at this. Text align center, and this sits at the center. So CSS answers questions like, where does this sit? How much space does it take? Does it take up the whole width? Does it take up half of it? How much space does it take? How does it respond to screen size? How does it respond to screen size? Okay, so this says text align center. There's no width, no height, nothing, and it's a H1, but it sits at the center of this box somehow, not at the center of this entire page. Lastly, CSS answers, how does it look without changing meaning? HTML describes structure and meaning. CSS presents, defines layout, spacing, positioning, and visual hierarchy. And CSS answers questions like, how does it look without changing meaning? CSS does not alter the meaning of your HTML. Your styling, your presentation, your layout, your spacing, your positioning, your visual hierarchy does not change the meaning and the structure of your page. So now, why does this separation matter? Real websites separate responsibilities. HTML, let me put it here. HTML equal structure and meaning, and answers questions like this. Wow, CSS equal layout and appearance. This separation makes sites easier to maintain, makes teams work faster, and makes accessibility possible, while it also makes scaling realistic. So if you mix them, your project will fight you later and you start having lots and lots of problems. Let's dive into a quick one. So here we're going to be doing a web page with no CSS. So I'm going to take out this CSS. Okay, the text is going to be black, so I'll just take this out. Let me use white. Then I'll take this. Okay, I'll leave this here. So let's say, welcome to my website. Change the text here, shows here. Good. So now let's imagine this HTML. I'm going to write just 3 lines of HTML code. So follow me. I'll put a p tag here, open and close. This is a simple paragraph. Then I put a link. I put an A tag, an anchor tag, open and close. Then my href. So I'll point this link to nothing. Then I'll put read more. Now, no CSS, no styles. I just put this text white here so we can see this. So if you can see this, the p tag still shows, and here is the link, but it points to nothing. So no CSS, no styles. Yet, notice something very important. The heading is clearly a heading. The paragraph is clearly a paragraph and is readable. And the link is interactive. You click on it, but it doesn't direct you anywhere because I put this hashtag here. Oh, okay. So we're going to copy this, reload. Nice. So I copied that just in case it cleared, but it didn't. So we have our state management correct. If you move into deeper courses where we're learning with React, then we'll learn state management. The structure already exists. Even with zero styling, the browser understands importance, flow, and meaning. That is HTML doing its job. Structure still exists without beauty. Now we're moving on to the next step, and you ask yourself, could a screen reader understand this? Could search engines understand this? Not just you who is coding the website, not just your clients who wants the website, not just the people who are going to use the websites, but could a screen reader read this? Could a screen reader understand this? Could search engines understand this? Could another developer understand this? Because structure is independent of style. When you speak of structure, this is structure. And when you go to CSS, this is style. Structure, HTML, is independent of style. So this is why good HTML improves accessibility, improves SEO, search engine optimization, and improves collaboration. Here we'll be adding a little bit of CSS alongside this, or we may remove this. Nothing about meaning changes. When you understand nothing about meaning changes, regardless of your styling, then we can proceed to add CSS. Here I'm going to change this to white, to blue, sorry, from white to blue. Then I'll add font size of 3 rem. So here it shows immediately there's no need to save, okay? So this is why this is your testing ground. So we're going to add some styling for that p tag so it shows. So we're going to put here max width of 600 pixels, and then we're going to put a color white. So now you can see the paragraph. So we're going to style the anchor tag a little bit. We're going to change the display to inline block. Then the margin at the top, I'm going to add 20 pixels. So you see that space there. If I add more, let's say I add 100 pixels, you see the space there. So I'm going to reduce this back to 20 pixels. Okay, let me change this color to sky blue. So what changed here? After adding CSS, can you ask yourself what changed here? So what changed here was the appearance, the spacing, and the layout. And what did not change? The heading is still a heading. Look, the heading is still a heading. The paragraph is still a paragraph. And the link is still a link. That's the power of separation. Moving on to the next step, you're going to be thinking why this matters in real projects, because you won't just be building demo sites forever. You have to work on real projects to improve your skills and to test your knowledge. So why does this matter in real projects? In real websites, designers change styles constantly. Oh, I do not like how that looks. Oh, I want this to look some other way. You can wake up in the middle of the night and your sense of design changes. It happens a lot of times. So designers change styles constantly, layouts evolve, branding gets refreshed. If meaning and appearance are tangled together, small changes break everything, you're afraid to refactor, and you rely on copy paste instead of understanding. Why mixing responsibilities breaks projects? Let's talk a little bit about silent killers. First, using HTML for visual reasons. Let's use an example. Using break for spacing instead of just using CSS. Or like I said, using div for everything. Every developer is obsessed with the div. I do not know why. Everyone always uses the div. That's not the only element. So choosing headings based on size and not meaning to would hurt you. For example, this is a H1. Let's do a H2. Hello world. So I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate this. Then I'll do here a H3, H4, H5. Now look at this. H1, H2, H3, H4, and H5. Choosing headings based on size and not meaning is not ideal. For example, I want a small heading at the top of the page. Look at this. So if I wanted this size of heading, and this is supposed to be a H3, according to hierarchy, this is supposed to be a H3 or a H2. But just because I want this particular size, then I go use a H4. It's going to work out, yeah? It's going to display, but it is not ideal. So what this does is it breaks accessibility, it breaks SEO, search engine optimization, and breaks long-term maintainability. So rather than doing that, just go to your CSS and add the font size. So for example, I'm going to do this on my H5. Look, my H5 now is the same size with my H1. So you do not use headings based on size, you use them based on meaning. You don't use divs for everything. No div. And you do not use break for spacing. Look at how we added the spacing between the paragraph and the link. All we had to do was add a margin at the top. Alright, so this, no, and the others should make sense. So remove this, and look, we have clean code. Secondly, treating CSS as trial and error. If your CSS workflow is add random properties until it looks right, you are not styling, you are guessing. This leads to fragile layouts, conflicting rows, CSS files nobody wants to touch. Yes, because if your files are messy, nobody wants to touch them. And then thirdly, building layouts without actually understanding structure. People jump straight into flexbox, grid, position absolutes without knowing what belongs inside what should control layout, and what should remain schematic. That's like decorating a house before building the walls, which is questionable. Here's the mindset that separates beginners from real developers. 1. HTML is the skeleton. CSS is the clothing. So what this means is you do not change bones to change outfits. So you do not have to change bones to change outfits. You do not resize organs to fix fashion. You separate concerns. Every time you write code, ask, is this meaning HTML? Is this appearance or layout CSS? If you ever get this right early, everything else becomes easier. Now let's wrap this up. In this lesson you learned HTML defines what things are. CSS defines how things look and behave visually. Real websites strictly separate these roles. You see here, it's clearly separated HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So this is a TXT file I'm using just for explanation. Understanding structure comes before layout. So we understood that in this lesson, and we understood that mixing these things can cause long-term pain. So if you want to go deeper, you can find this particular course in the ACE Academy.